discussed between the police department and the community review board. Also, we have an increased agency visibility and community engagement that she's been involved in social media engagement, robust community partnership, and successful annual departmental events. Just go. You can be all day reading most of the coverage that she's done since being chair. And one that really catches your eye is something that she created, Your Voice, Our Mission Public Safety Marketing Campaign, in which conceptualized and launched this impactful campaign to amplify community voices while actively promoting the core values of integrity, transparency, accountability, trustworthiness, and legacy within the public safety. So as you can see, she's been very busy throughout this whole entire while. And this is additional information that's on her resume. And we would like for her to be treated as equally as fairly as any other CEO of any metropolitan government. To get good results from Metro employees, you got to give them good compliments and make sure they get fair pay raises and make sure they're taken care of, because all Metro employees kind of work hand in hand. You got public works, Metro teachers, fire department, police department, community review board, and all of them kind of work hand in hand to make this city what you call the it city. And the more you invest in the Metro employees, the greater the return. And we want to make sure that the community review board is not at the bottom of the list, but the top of the list. And whatever we can do and the community can do to encourage this, we appreciate it. We thank the council for approving the new budget, and hopefully the mayor will sign off on it, and we will get what we've been informed that we vote on needing. It's not going to catch us up with the cost of living because it's moving so fast, and then you got to pay taxes on property and stuff like that, but it will put us in the ball game, and stuff. And we just want to make sure that this board is being treated fairly and compared to other CEOs and other Metro department heads, if one department can get 90%, 50%, 80%, so can we. Another thing I'm looking at, if we can pay for Metro employees that don't live here and work, to live in other counties and work here, and we got to pay for the gas and the maintenance of the vehicle, why can't the community review board have 2 vehicles? So they want to use their money to repair their own vehicle, spend their own gas, and treat us equally. And I appreciate this, and hopefully that the mayor will sign off on it and give us what we need so we can do work. Like I said, the more you invest, the greater return you get from your employees. Thank you. Okay, what we have next? Do we have public comment? Go ahead.
To revisit this issue and the letter that you just addressed, I believe this board would need to vote and approve your sending this to our mayor, since it's on behalf of the board.
We was going to do that further on down the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
And we want to make sure that we get our votes in.
Thank you.
On a timely fashion, We want all our I's dotted and all our T's crossed. And I haven't forgot that. That's my major goal for today. Okay, let's go with, as I said, do we have any public comments?
No, sir.
Okay. Executive Director's Report.
First, I want to thank you, Mr. Holloway, Chair Holloway, for your support and all of the members of the board. And I appreciate you advocating for me to receive an increase in my salary. So thank you very much. For the Executive Director's report for June of 2025, I'm just going to highlight the things that are very specific. So just as a reminder, next month for the meetings for July and August, we will not be here in the Sonny West location because they're remodeling this space. And so July the 28th July the 28th will be at the Madison Community Center. And that is from 5 to 7. So we want to make certain that those individuals that live in the Madison area are aware that we're going to be out there. So we'll do some canvassing out there. And then August the 25th, from 5 to 7, we'll be at the Sevier Park Regional Community Center. And so just make note, and I will, of course, remind you as those dates become, as we get closer to those dates. I'm going to skip around on this and then I'll give it to you, Frank. This month we had, since our last board meeting in May, we've had 7 civilian complaints and no accommodations. We also presented, of course, last month cases. Those cases were sent to the chief of police already for review and to the mayor's office. As it pertains to records, it's from what I've heard from the compliance monitors, that they have been requesting records, making requests for records, and getting those fairly quickly. And we're still, as we are checking the timelines for the body-worn camera footage to make certain that those delays don't exceed the time frames that we have as per the MOU agreement. Tonight, of course, we're going to present to you 3 cases for hearings, and then we have 2 administrative closures as well. I did want to highlight that we have for one of the case reviews on the agenda, it's incorrect. So I'll make that change when we get to it and give you the correct case number. And as for meetings, just as a reminder, we are meeting with you on July the 7th, which is a Monday, for our staff board lunch and learn, as well as some board training. So just make certain you take a note of that. As it pertains to our budget, just like there was at the last minute, there were a bunch of reductions to operational functions of of departments across the government, across Metro. So we did not receive any additional funds for fiscal year 26, and our departmental savings, that money, they recalled it. Which was about $30,000. Additionally, there wasn't an approval for a CRB vehicle in the budget, in the mayor's budget, but we're still waiting to hear from the Department of General Services Fleet Management for more information on whether or not that was approved. And so when we asked our budget analyst, he said that it wasn't in the mayor's budget. There wasn't any monies set aside for that for our department, but it could be that it would go through their budget, which is the normal process. So, but we haven't heard from them as of yet, and I think Ms. Barnett reached out to them. Did you hear from them yet? Yeah.
Good evening, board members. So just to provide an update, we discussed our executive committee meeting. The Metro Council approved the budget last Tuesday, and they stated that once that budget was approved, then we would hear from either Fleet Management or the Office of Budget Management in regards to if our department was approved for a vehicle. We know that Fleet Management was approved for, I believe, they stated over $1 million worth of vehicles, or fleet, in their 4% fund. However, we're not sure if the, request for an NCRB SUV was included in that number. So we are waiting to hear back from our budget analyst in regards to that. But Director Fisher is correct in regards to, where our budget is stated now. We did not receive any additional FTEs or requests, but currently our budget did receive the contractual requests that we had in our budget for our rent and for our case management system. So that takes the budget up to our final 2.425 for the fiscal year 26.
Any questions?
Do you have any questions? Our budget ask was, this is including FTEs, because we had 7 FTEs that we requested. And then we requested, additional monies for our, advertising and promotion. So it was over, 700,000 that we requested, but we only received for the rent, in our budget, the contractual items. So we didn't get any of the additional requests that we asked. Is there any other questions?
I didn't have it. Did you have any other questions about the vehicle, Mr. Holloway?
No.
Okay. We will provide an update to the board once we receive the final word, if we did receive the vehicle for next year.
But I do appreciate you saying that we have used our own vehicles, multiple vehicles, for us to get around to host the events that we have hosted. It takes usually about 3 or 4 vehicles to get to take all of our equipment.
Yes, I mentioned 2, and so we hope we'll be in the ballpark and getting what we need.
Yes.
But
Okay. So a couple things. So in my director's report, I have some items that fall under board discussion, the update on the 61-page complaint, the MOU agreement, and those things. So I am going to, when I finish up this report, allow Attorney Brazil to address those issues. I did want to say one thing today. Just because I've had questions about this from people, from board members as well. The Office of Professional Accountability released their report into allegations against our Chief Drake. I'm just going to tell you that it is completed now. The recommendations, I'm going to read to you OPA's recommendations. This report was made available to the news. I didn't get this. I just want to let you know I got this from the news. I did not get this, from anyone within the Office of Professional Accountability, just to be clear. So recommendations here was the first one, which was personal behavior, acting impartially. The recommendation was unfounded. And then recommendation number 2 for allegation, conduct unbecoming of an employee of the department. That recommendation was not sustained. And this is a public document, so if you want to look at it, you can find it on WSMV and read it. And so just as another reminder, we are having 2 events that I think it's important that you all clear your calendars for. The first one is our Youth Summit, which is on July the 19th. It's in collaboration with Tennessee State University's Human Sciences Department. It aims to amplify youth perspectives on public safety in their communities. The event will feature engaging youth panels, interactive breakout sessions, and powerful impact stories and inspiring guest speakers. So we encourage you to join us for that. And then as well, we are having our town hall event. It is scheduled for August the 22nd and 23rd. The 22nd will probably just be like a reception, but the 23rd is the day that we are having that. It is on a Saturday in August. So mark your calendar, save the date. We hope to see you there. Our research team is working on some things. I would like to mention today, I was sent a, I was sent a clip as it related to an ICE arrest involving the MMPD. And that information was concerning to me of what I saw in that video. We are working towards trying to figure out what happened with that situation. And when I find out more information about it, I'll let you know.
Board
And
member.
that concludes my report.
Okay, board member Heather.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Edie Pitchard, I was curious about the investigation with Chief Drake. Was that was a citizen-initiated complaint that OPA investigated? Was that a citizen complaint?
I think it was, yes, it was a citizen complaint involving, some domestic, involving people who were in a domestic relationship.
Does that come to us afterwards? Is that something that is in our purview, or is it case closed and it's over at this point?
That's a good question. The case is closed at this point, and I think that it is in our purview to review it if we chose to.
And OPA has a process where they're supposed to send us these files, these cases, once they're concluded in a certain timeline, right?
Not specifically, because this didn't come through our office.
Okay.
I think that this went straight to
them.
the mayor's office, maybe.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Board member Cersei.
I'd like to move that we adopt a report of the OPA.
All in favor, say aye.
Well, we didn't get a second.
Now I was waiting on Heather.
You're making a motion to adopt the OPA investigation into the chief that we haven't seen? You've seen it, right?
The report, just the report.
We've only heard the report.
Board.
It's reported.
Chair, if I may.
Yes.
I'm not certain we can or should take that action right now. We can't vote right now at this point in our meeting.
Okay.
We could vote, but it would have to be affirmed.
And we're voting to adopt a report that I don't believe we've discussed or reviewed or received.
I withdraw my motion.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see, we got, board member discussion, the update on the 61st page complaint is next item.
Yes, thank you. On June 16th, myself, Executive Director, the 61-page complaint. Chair, the only thing to report in this matter is that by motion, this board voted to have a public records request placed for recovery of the warrant issued and served on Butler Snow's Memphis office. I completed that public records request and lodged it with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, and they promptly responded, but they did decline to produce any materials. Their reason cited was that it is an ongoing investigation. That is all I have to report regarding the 61-page complaint.
Any other board member got any comments on this board? Okay, we will go to the MOU agreement.
Yes, on June 16th, myself, Executive Director Jill Fitchard, Alicia Haddock, Member Haddock, and Drew Goddard, acting in the capacity of a concerned citizen and also a citizen who was part of the 3 rounds of formal MOU negotiations, had a meeting with Cindy Gross, Chief of Staff, as well as Widener and Deputy Chief Green. And at that meeting, the topic was there were 2 main topics. The first topic was the 5 issues that this board is aware of that were outlined in a letter to Chief Drake, discussing issues that relate to our MOU. We had a very productive discussion about those 5 issues, and Edie Jill Fitchard, along with her team, developed a workable spreadsheet overlay with all of our cases with dates that's easy to refer to, and was very helpful in this meeting where we discussed deficiencies in the police department's productions, and they, again, raised what they perceived to be deficiencies in our adherence to timelines. And the good news is those issues were largely resolved. The second part of our meeting related to this agreement that we hoped would be entered by the police department, since District Attorney Glenn Funk green-lighted our draft of what we'll call the DA MOU, which is a Rule 16 agreement for the police department and the district attorney to allow us access to Rule 16 materials when needed. And we went back and forth about how, this is a power that this board had for some time. We believed, based on what Mr. Goddard, myself, and Jill perceived to be representations made through all 3 rounds of that MOU negotiations, that the police department would be willing to enter into that agreement. They recall our discussions differently than we recalled them, and we shared our differing recollections and also our disappointment in the fact that they would not join that agreement. But the position of the police department is that the law does not require them to share Rule 16 materials with the Community Review Board, and that they are not willing to, but we included a very important caveat, and I'm hopeful that it can take us to our desired end. That caveat is that General Funk, if he sees fit, may, on a case-by-case basis, and may, upon our request, share those materials. At this meeting, our team requested that the department formalize their position and include something along the lines of, when those requests are made, the police department will not encourage the district attorney to decline to cooperate. And I don't believe that a formal agreement was reached in that regard, although they did represent that would likely be their position. But I don't think it went far enough. And I think that we, as a board, that the board should continue to pursue this issue. And I'm hopeful that we can still access the materials that we need or may need in future cases with the cooperation from our district attorney. And that's all I have as far as an update on our MOU agreement.
Board Member Sexton.
We now have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, we do. I was trying to figure out, did you have any comment on his report?
Yes.
Okay, let's go with the comment.
But we need to acknowledge
Who will?
Attorney Brazil, what do we need from general fund at this time to go forward?
Well, that's a good question. We had what we thought we needed, which was his blessing on cooperating with our department on requests involving Rule 16 materials that are not covered and are contemplated but are not explicitly covered in the act. Now, since we review closed investigations, Rule 16 materials, which is the rule of procedure that prevents dissemination of materials when there is a ongoing prosecution. So what we need to do next is identify cases, whether we have them yet or not. For cases that we do not have yet, we need a well-defined procedure to put in writing to our district attorney the materials that we're requesting. And it should be as simple as him saying, okay, I have no reason to believe he'd do anything but that. And then we remain hopeful that there would not be any interference from the police department's counsel in releasing those records. It was represented to us that they could not think of any good reason why there would be, which is, of course, different than saying that there absolutely will not be.
So we need a letter drafted to general fund stating our position regarding the Rule 16 materials and have him actually sign that.
I think signing or responding in the affirmative would be sufficient, something to give us assurance that we're clear about our position and his, and I think that's exactly correct, and I'm happy to undertake that immediately.
Okay, that being said, we do need to establish, do we have a quorum? Okay, with that understood, do we accept the report? I can't read a head nod, and we can't record a head nod.
I make a motion to accept the ED's report.
Okay, second. Okay, it's already been second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now that, like I said, now that we.
Chair,
Yes.
I believe we also, approval of minutes needs to be revisited now with quorum.
Yes. One step at a time. First of all, I want to get the evaluation approved. That's a high priority. Okay. Let me explain to board member Whistle that the executive board has done an evaluation and did a miracle number on Director Fisher pay raise, and we came out with an average of 13. The council had approved for a pay raise, but the mayor got to sign off on it, so we read out what on our resume, things that she's done, and reason why we rated it as such. And if you have a copy of it in front of you, you can review it now, but you know it for yourself. You've done workshops with her before, and you know that she does a great job. And what we need to know, get a vote on the pay raise of 13% from the board. Heather, go ahead.
Just for clarification, are we voting on the letter that you're sending to the mayor? Because we have to vote for that. Or are we already going to go ahead into the merit increase discussion?
We vote on the numerical number, the evaluation number.
Okay, so now we're talking about the merit increase recommendation from the board.
What we're doing is voting on what the board had come up with on the evaluation. With the executive committee approval. All in favor of the executive board approval of 13% pay raise, say aye. All in, all.
Hold on one second. All right, just for clarification for you, so there's a letter D, Executive Director Evaluation Merit Increase in the, on the agenda. And so if we're going to kind of, because we've already discussed the budget, so we are now, and just for Sean's purpose, so that he knows, during the chair's remarks, he covered the letter. Okay, so that's the information, they're basically one and the same, but to stay in line with the agenda, we are now on item 8D. Okay, and this is, in this regard, this is the time where you are voting on whether you're gonna approve what the executive committee came up with and send this letter to the mayor. All right, so they're one and the same. So when you take your vote, you're also voting that this letter moves forward to the mayor. All right,
So we need to change it to include both of them at the same time.
Yeah, because they're one and the same.
One and the same. So
Unless you decide to change the merit increase number.
Okay,
If you decide to change the merit increase number, then there are two separate votes.
okay, we're gonna do one vote.
Chair, can I?
Yes, Heather.
I'm just wondering if we can have a moment of discussion before we go into the vote on the merit increase.
Okay.
I know you just gave Member Witzel kind of the rundown of the recommendation from the EC being 13%, but we didn't have a discussion, and I just wanted to put on the record a thank you to Ms. Barnett, who has been fielding my calls the last couple of days and answering questions about the budget and the process. She is very informed and has her stuff together and was extremely helpful, just giving me background and context. As the newest member of the board, I didn't have much to go off of. And so I know you know, Edie Fitchard, how great your staff is, but I've been impressed with her and just really grateful for her being responsive and giving me information and background on the budget the last couple of days. So I just wanted to put that on the record and thank you for all your work.
Okay, let's do this. Ms. Barnett, could you explain the evaluation for the employees as well while we're going through this process? And so we can get all this out of the way. And that way, everybody, if you hadn't read it, you'd be informed on
Okay.
the process.
Yeah, sure. So this year, how we decided to do Executive Fitchard's performance evaluation, it was a little different from last year. So we were able to talk to Metro HR and also consult with Attorney Frank Brazil, and I consulted with Chair Holloway on how he would like to do the evaluation this year. We were told that the board and Chair Holloway as the executive chair had autonomy to decide if he wanted to do the standard Metro employee evaluation form, or if he wanted to present to the board reasonings for the merit increase, get remarks from the executive committee, and so he decided to use the what we have is a key highlights and performance highlights. I think it's in front of you, that the executive committee received, and that states all of the things Director Fitcher has done for fiscal year 25, and since her tenure as executive director for operations for the CRB. It also states her professional involvements and just key highlights that took place under her leadership this year. So the executive committee used that in addition to after the executive committee meeting last Wednesday, board member Michelle requested a job description, and so we sent the executive committee her job description, her resume, the key highlights, and also an NCRB, our methodology form, which we had provided to Metro HR earlier this year in regards to how we are doing merit increases for all employees in the office. So after reviewing all those documents, the executive committee made a decision and voted individually on what their recommended merit increase for the director would be. And as previous years, we've taken those recommendations, that number of merit increase, and came up with an average. So we have 4 members of the executive committee, so their votes were taken, and the average came out to 13%. Chair Holloway advised the board to review those tools and to provide all the responses in by Monday morning. So we completed everything this morning. And he also instructed if anyone had anything lower than a 10% to provide an explanation why. So that is one reason why we don't have any remarks or written remarks, because no one voted to have anything lower than a 10% merit increase. Do you have any questions?
Question, Heather?
No questions, just wanted to say thank you. And all the documents that were sent, the documentation to review the merit increase, the scaling, really demonstrates the exceptional leadership of Executive Director Fitchard. I really appreciate you taking the time to put all this together. One thing I also wanted to just put on the record, which is in the letter that we're sending to the mayor, but I don't believe the chair mentioned in his remarks, is that in 2023, there wasn't an evaluation and there wasn't a merit increase. And you may have said this already in this meeting, but I just want to make sure that people are aware of that as well. So this 12% or 13%, is it 13%?
13%.
13% the board is recommending also includes consideration that there wasn't a merit increase in 2023. And I'm glad you put that in the letter and that it's noted, because this executive director has led this board through some transformative, transitional periods, some difficult, challenging years. And I'm really grateful for the documentation and all the efforts on behalf of ED Fitchard. So thank you.
Thank you.
Board Member Cersei?
I'd like to move at this time that we adopt the 32% and send the letter as drafted to the mayor.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, we got that out the way, and thank you for your vote, and,
Oh, I just wanted to add one quick thing. So after the vote is taken, I just wanted for you guys, for the knowledge of the board, that this information will be provided to HR in the mayor's office, and we will let you know in regards to their approval if they accepted the recommendation.
thank you.
And I'd like to just chime in. Thank you, Attorney Michelle, or Member Michelle, for acknowledging Ms. Barnett. She's done some tremendous work, as has my entire staff, and I'm very, very thankful for you all and the support that you continue to give us. I could not do this work without a staff that was willing to put in the work and the sacrifices that they make for this, for this agency, but also for the citizens of this city. So thank you all. Appreciate you.
Well, like I said once before, the greater the investment in your employees, the greater the return, the more work you can get, and the more efficiency work that you can done. And we appreciate everybody, and we stay a core. Something that was on the agenda that we didn't approve, and it was minutes. Did I get a motion to approve the minutes? Did I get a second?
I'm sorry, I actually don't have the minutes. Can I just pull them up real quick? And Thank you.
Oh, Sean, go ahead.
Have the minutes been they haven't been discussed at all? Okay.
We just want to make sure that, like I said, we want to make sure we dot all our I's and cross all our T's. If you have any question or anything on the agenda that you have not heard, please do so at this time.
I just wanted to I didn't know if the minutes were discussed and if there were any changes made. So
Okay.
now that I know that, I'm good.
You good? Okay, we want to make sure everybody's good. We want to be on the same page. The NCRB 26 budget, that's going to include the same report, part of the same report we just went over. Is that correct?
While she's reviewing those minutes, can we skip down to
Yes, go ahead.
All right, so under 10, first bullet, is NCRB case reviews, consent closures. That first bullet is CC 2025-006. That should be updated, that's incorrect, it should be 2025-0010.
2 zeros and 1.
And
Okay.
0010. And once we make the approval on the minutes, or any changes, I'd like us to go out of, order in the agenda and do the case closures first, if that's okay with you, Chair Howard?
Okay, Heather, Board Member Heather, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I do have one correction for the minutes. It has me listed as in attendance. I was in person, and in spirit, because it's my birthday, but I was in California, so I was not at that meeting. It was my birthday, though.
No excuse.
So I would just make a motion. I don't know if I need to make a motion or just state
Make a
that.
correction, which, is that on, at the board members in attendance?
Yes, ma'am. Board
Okay.
members in attendance.
You were absent?
And that's the only correction that I noticed that needs.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion for that correction on the minutes.
Accept the minute with necessary correction. Okay, anybody? Okay, the motion is accept the minute with necessary correction. Hey, we got- You first, you second. All approves, say aye. Anybody not approve? Okay, so the motion passes. We just want to make sure we're all on the same page here. Okay, let's, what you say, you want to do the closed cases, the review cases at this time?
Yeah, that's correct. So we are going to, hopefully going forward, we can just, approve these if you guys get a chance to look at them, so we don't take up too much of the board's time. And so I'm going to read to you the case, and just do it very briefly on these two cases. So the first one is NCRB CC 2025-0010. It is a case closure. It has been approved, and we made no recommendations in regards to that. This complaint, I will tell you, was not forwarded to OPA, as no MMPD policy violations were discovered. And then the next one is CC 2025-9573. This is a case where,
Let's, excuse me, let's clear that up. Okay, you said 0010, there was no recommendation on that?
no recommendation.
All in favor, say aye.
I thought we were doing them in one.
Yeah, we're doing them all at once.
All in one?
Yeah, for
Great,
this one.
okay.
Okay. And then for the next case, which is CC 2025-9573, that we make no recommendation, as this complaint did not involve any MMPD officers. It was a officer that worked with NDOT. And so there's no recommendation, and I ask for approval for closure.
Want approval for closure?
For
on-
closure for both, because neither one of them involved MMPD.
All in favor for closure, say aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, there's no, the closure has been approved, and all in favor say aye. Okay, that's good, so let's go on with the next.
Okay, perfect. All right, these are cases for board approval and hearing. All right, the first case, is NCRB CC 2024-030. The allegations of misconduct are against Officer Jacob Snyder. Number 1 being discrimination, number 2, discourtesy, and number 3, violation of civil rights. The summary of the complaint allegation is that Jamario Bowl, hereinafter referred to as the complainant, made a complaint to the NCRB on March 17th of 2024, alleging that Officer Jacob Snyder, hereinafter referred to as officer, was discourteous and discriminated against him when he called him dog and made a reference about the projects when speaking to the complainant. He stated that because of this behavior, he believes that the officer violated his civil rights. The complainant was involved in an automobile accident with another driver on January 27, 2024 at approximately 3 a.m. The other driver, a female, was responsible for the accident, but the complainant was unable to collect any personal information from her because she was in and out of her vehicle, according to the complainant. The officer was on the scene quickly and asked the complainant to move his vehicle to a nearby location. While at that location, the complainant asked the officer if the complainant could retrieve the other driver's information, and the officer replied, "No, I don't trust you to do that." During the discussion between the complainant and the officer referred to the complainant as dog and asked him to calm down. The complainant stated that he was not the officer's dog and that he had a name. The officer replied, "That's how I talk to everyone in the projects." The complainant felt disrespected by this exchange and the assumption that he lived in the projects. He believed that the officer's behavior is a violation of his civil rights.
Okay, heard the report.
Okay, I'm still, hold on.
Oh, you still on?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
still on it. OPA's recommendations were that the discrimination claim was not sustained, that the self-control, they interjected a new allegation of self-control. They sustained that one. Our conclusion was that the officer did violate MMPD policies and that OPA's investigation is thorough and complete. There was a lot of information, a lot of recordings and information. However, the findings were not satisfactory. So my recommendations are as follows. OPA put in they charged this officer with self-control, which states that employees shall not argue unnecessarily with any person or otherwise show a lack of self-control. This officer was arguing back and forth with this complainant, and during that back and forth, there was a use of profanity by the officer. And so profanity is a chargeable offense. And so my recommendation is that the Office of Professional Accountability add the violation of profanity and provide a recommendation that coincides with the discipline category, meaning these are two separate allegations. All right, so that's the first one. And then my second recommendation here for the board to consider is that the accused officer, while speaking to the complainant, called him dog instead of his name, and the complainant quickly responded by telling the officer to not call him dog. And although the use of the word dog is colloquialism in certain cultures as a term for an acquaintance or friend, it was unprofessional to assume that the use of the word was appropriate from an officer to a citizen. Additionally, the response from the officer to the complainant was that he talks like that when he is in the projects, and no one had an issue with it. I felt that was also inappropriate. The complainant was involved in a traffic collision on I-40 and Stewart's Ferry Road, and there were no projects in the immediate area. They were not in what they would consider a project in that area. So the officer assumed that what was acceptable in one context and location was universally acceptable. And that was an error of judgment. And so my recommendation is that the officer have additional training for cultural competency and awareness. They may call it cultural humility now, or whatever they use, whatever term. But self-awareness and training in that regard, whether it comes to competency and how to deal with people, is my recommendations. So the recommendation for courtesy and obstruction of rights, courtesy was not sustained because the other one, self-control was. And then, so that was not sustained. And then the personal behavior obstruction of rights was unfounded. So that concludes that report, and I'll take any discussion questions.
Are there any discussion? Well, this case remind me of something that, when he said that, remind him of the project, and you went in the project area. It reminded me where, I had a call, and so to complete the call and do the report, and I was supposed to get off at 3 p.m., but it extended past there. So once I turned my report in to the West Station, I had to go out to Antioch. That's 21 miles. So my sergeant looked at my tachograph, wanted to know what I did driving after 3 o'clock. I said, Sarge, you didn't want me to go home. Oh, so I said, you assume I lived in the project on 40? You know, so that's what it reminded me of. But anyway. So do we have a motion on the recommendation on health?
I make a motion to adopt the executive director's report and the recommendation to the OPA.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, the motion passed. Let's go to the next report.
Sorry. The next report is NCRB CC 2024-038. The allegations of misconduct against office, sorry. I'm reading the wrong one. You want to go ahead and do yours? Because mine is. Yeah, go.
I'll be presenting Community Review Report CC 2024-038. And the allegations of misconduct by the NCRB are against Officer Igor Dmitriev. And number one policy violation is discrimination. That is the initial policy violation. And the second one is self-identification. And also, there's policy violations against Sergeant James Reese. Again, the first policy violation is discrimination, and second, self-identification. And the summary of the complaint allegations are as such. On March 21st of 2024, Adrian Trice, hereinafter referred to as complainant, reported being stopped by MNPD officers at 7-Eleven gas station at 227 Shelby Avenue after being blocked in by police vehicles. Officer Igor Dmitriev, hereinafter referred to as Officer 1, cited a traffic violation and loud music as reasons for the stop. Officer 1 was backed up by Officer Damon Hutchinson, hereinafter referred to as Officer 2. Complainant refused to provide identification, questioning the legitimacy of the stop and expressing frustration over the officer's inquiries, particularly regarding whether any males were in her vehicle. The situation escalated, leading complainant to request a supervisor. Sergeant James Reese, the supervisor, hereinafter referred to as Sergeant 1, arrived on the scene. However, the complainant's request of the officer's name and badge numbers were denied. She later filed a complaint alleging ongoing racial profiling and harassment of MNPD. Regarding the OPA's conclusions and actions, in view of the foregoing set of facts and circumstances, the following recommendations are made regarding potential policy violations as it pertains to Officer 1. Number 1, the MNPD Manual 4.20.040, bias-based policing, and the recommendation was unfounded. The second policy allegation or violation is number 2 is the MMPD Manual 4.20.050, official obligations, self-identification. And in the case of Officer 1, he was found exonerated in that matter. Now moving on to Sergeant 1. In view of the foregoing set of facts and circumstances, the following recommendations are made regarding the potential policy violations. Number 1, MMPD Manual 404.20.040, personal behavior or self-control. That policy violation was sustained regarding Sergeant 1. Number 2, the MMPD Manual 04.20.050, official obligations, deficient and efficient performance of duties. That also was sustained regarding Sergeant 1. Number 3, MMPD Manual 04.20.050, official obligations and self-identification. He was found exonerated in that matter. And finally, number 4, MMPD Manual 04.20.04, personal behavior, conduct unbecoming an employee of the department, was not sustained. So in the case of the NCRB conclusion, the Assistant Director reviewed the evidence in this case and concludes, the NCRB review found deficiencies in the supervisor's conduct and performance, but did not substantiate claims of racial profiling and bias policing. While not sustained policy violation in this context, the refusal to provide officer identification remains a concern for community relations and transparency. Sergeant 1's handling of the situation did not meet MMPD's self-control policy. His loss of self-control and unnecessary escalation, including the ambulance call and refusal to provide officer identification, were policy violations. Sergeant 1 violated the self-control policy when he continued to argue with the complainant and made inappropriate comments rather than conduct himself in a professional manner. Per the review of Sergeant 1's body-worn camera footage, Sergeant 1 lost control at approximately 25 minutes into it and ended at 36 minutes, which was about 11 minutes total. The incident highlights the importance of respectful communication, transparency, and adherence to policy to building trust, especially when the community members express concerns about profiling or harassment. MMPD should reinforce training on de-escalation and self-control and the importance of providing identification to the public, regardless of tenure of the interaction. And finally, the NCRB recommendation. The executive director and assistant director conferred, and these are the recommendations. It is recommended that OPA always provide a narrative with their conclusions and determinations for the closure of the investigation. The arrival of Sergeant 1 intended to de-escalate, instead resulted in further argumentation and the breakdown of communication. The body-worn camera footage and interviews confirmed that the procedural steps regarding the stop and warning were followed. Still, transparency and professionalism were lacking, particularly regarding providing officers' identification and handling the complainant's agitation. It is also recommended that Sergeant 1 receive additional training concerning professionalism, de-escalation tactics when dealing with the citizens of Nashville. Continued training and accountability measures are needed to prevent similar incidents. While MMPD policy requires officers to provide identification upon request, the refusal in this case was exonerated. However, per the MMPD policy, self-identification and best practice would have been best to comply with the complainant's request. NCRB further recommends that the OPA review their policy on self-identification, which is sworn employees, whether in uniform or not in uniform, shall willingly display their official credentials to any person who may ask and allow the person reasonable time to inspect them. Sergeant 1 confirmed that he failed to provide the requested identification of all officers involved. And that concludes my report. I'll take any questions, and also the officer, the compliance monitor, handling this case, Ms. Pillow, is also available.
Okay, board members, Whistle.
I'm just curious, was there a reason given for why they didn't identify themselves?
That he forgot to provide the information. That was in regarding Sergeant 1. He was the individual that was asked to provide, and he stated that he forgot.
And, board member Cersei.
I noticed that, OPA, completed their report in March of this year. Is that correct?
Confer to my timeline here.
Yeah, March 24th.
January 21st, is that what you're talking about, when the investigation was sent to NCRB?
Submitted to the Community Review Board for approval on Monday, March 24th. So
I'm not certain we're looking at the same document.
that's on the signature page,
Okay,
page 11.
okay.
Oh, that needs to be corrected to say June. Go to the last page.
Okay,
Go to the last.
last page.
All right.
We'll change
Okay,
that.
so it's submitted to us on
It's
this
a month
day.
for today.
Today, yes,
Yes.
sir. I'm
Thank you.
sorry, I was looking at the timeline. I'm with you now. Yes, sir.
Right here.
Yes, sir, I see. Thank you. That would be updated to June, what is today? 23rd, 2005. Yes, sir.
Are there any more comments? Get a motion?
Make a motion to accept the recommendation.
So, do we get a second?
Second.
Okay, it been properly, motion been properly second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, the motion passes. And is that the last report? Do we have another one? You got one more?
Oh, I have more, sorry. All right, this is NCRB CC 2024-002. The allegations of misconduct by the NCRB against Officer Tyler Hall is number 1, adherence to law, and against Officer Sergeant Kimberly Forsyth, adherence to law. The summary of the complaint allegations is Brian Tinch, hereinafter referred to as the complainant, made a complaint to the NCRB on January the 8th of 2024, alleging that Officer Tyler Hall, hereinafter referred to as Officer 1, and Sergeant Kimberly Forsyth, hereinafter referred to as Sergeant 1, were driving at a high rate of speed while operating a Metro government vehicle. At the time of his complaint, he did not know the officers' names. However, he was able to provide the vehicle numbers for identification purposes. The complainant reported that he observed the driver speeding and driving recklessly between Greenbrier and Nashville, going towards Highway 41 South. He stated the officer was cutting in and out of traffic and using bright headlights. The complainant stated that he believed the officer was going over the posted speed limit by 25 or 30 miles per hour, and at some point the complainant and the officer's vehicle were beside one another, and the complainant observed the officer on his cell phone while driving. He stated that once the officer stopped looking at his phone, he began to speed again. The complainant advised that when he and the officer proceeded to Ellington Parkway, the officer changed lanes without using his blinker and almost collided with the complainant. The complainant alleges that he had to change lanes quickly to avoid the officer's vehicle, which caused another driver to slam on brakes to avoid hitting the complainant. The OPA did a I'm just going to read this because I think it's important. Our review of the NCRB's review of the OPA's investigation confirmed that Trackstar played a crucial role in verifying the allegations by the complainant, particularly when identifying which officers were assigned to the vehicles involved on the day of the speeding incident. The software tools were used to confirm the actual speeds the officers were traveling at the time of the infraction. That information is included in the report that I gave you all. And prior to the conclusion of the investigation, both Officer 1 and Sergeant 1, they both requested pre-investigative settlements. The settlements were approved by Deputy Chief, at that time, Assistant Chief Dwayne Green, on February the 14th of 2024. The officers were not interviewed because of this pre-settlement agreement, and they're not required to provide any additional information. So they just accepted the discipline for those charges. Both officers received written reprimands in compliance or for the violation of adherence to law speeding, which is a Category E offense. And so they both conceded to speeding. So Officer 1 and Sergeant 1 did, my conclusion is that they both violated MMPD policies, that the OPA's investigation was complete and thorough, and the findings are satisfactory. I have no additional recommendations. And I'll take questions. That concludes my review of 2024-002.
Question,
Yes.
was that a marked unit or unmarked vehicle?
I think they both were unmarked. They were, based on what I read, they were SUVs. And the SUVs, it didn't seem, based on what I read, that they were marked.
Yes, I think they all had that AVL system on the vehicle. And it's not 100%. It's pretty accurate, though. I know it had me in somewhere else, and I was in the courtroom on having trial. So I know it's not 100%. But they gave them written reprimand, is that correct?
They did, yes.
Okay, what's the board? Anybody have any comments? Do I get a motion?
I move to adopt.
Do I second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes.
Thank you. That concludes our review of cases today. And so we can move to the next agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I do have a quick question on these case closures and review by the board. I realize I'm almost 7 months in, so I can't use the new card for too much longer. But once we give these recommendations, it looks like 2 of these cases, we did training recommendations, which agreed with the findings from you all and think it's important that these training recommendations are implemented. We send these recommendations over to the chief and the mayor, and then they make a determination about whether they're going to accept or not accept these recommendations. Is that correct?
Yes, so they go to the chief, and the chief he's supposed to respond based on what the law says, that he responds with whether or not he's going to adopt those recommendations or send the case back to OPA for further investigation or any of those things. And we've sent them, and I think that his time frame is it 45 days? Hold on one second. I am looking at the MOU, sorry about that. It's somewhere in here. But anyway, so they go to the chief. I believe that he has 45 days. Oh, here it is. Found it. It says, upon completion of its review of an OPA investigation of an allegation of officer misconduct, the CRB shall report its written findings and conclusions to the chief of police and the mayor, right, in a report, this is what this is. Upon completion of the review of the OPA investigation, a CRB committee may, subject to its own specific findings and conclusions, make recommendations to the chief of police for the improvement of law enforcement policies and activities and to benefit the community. Nothing in this section shall be construed to prevent the CRB from reporting findings of criminality to all appropriate state, federal, and local authorities. Upon receipt of recommendations of a noted deficiency, the chief, shall have, within 45 calendar days, do a written response. So it's similar to what we used to do in the past, so we're waiting on those responses. And then also, of course, if he needs more time, he would just let us know on that regard. And then also these reports, when we complete them, they are put on a portal. So right now, if you go to our webpage for Nashville.gov, and you can drop down and look at these reports, and they're there. Once the chief gives us his written recommendations or conclusions, whatever, his response, that response would also go on there. So we've been doing that.
Okay, wonderful. That was my question, was if, once those responses are received by the board,
Yes.
if it's then being tracked and updated, I'd just be curious to look back over the year after all the recommendations that we've made to see how many of those recommendations are being adopted.
Yeah. We do a statistical report on that.
Okay.
Like, I think that we did that with the other iteration of the oversight board, where we looked over all of the recommendations to get the percentage of how many cases were actually being, what the recommendations, were they being implemented, or, things of that nature. So.
Thank you.
It's similar to that.
What we not saying at this time that they do look at when they have complaints and these guys being written up for different charges, look and see what kind of history they got. See if they've been disciplined before. Is there a pattern? And sometimes you find officers that are a little rugged, like when they talk to people, and they got a history. I think they can talk to people like they're in charge of everything, but you got a job, you got to be professional,
I also find it, just so that I can add this, the cases are closed. And so when we were the oversight board, the cases were still open, which meant that the officers kind of, of course, we went through guarantee rights and due process, right? This is different because the cases are closed. So I'm curious. I'll be waiting to see how the chief responds to determine whether or not they can implement these recommendations. I think that even if the case is closed and the officer has went through a due process, I think the recommendations still stand and should be affirmed, because it doesn't change the fact that these allegations happened and these are the recommendations. So, yeah. Oh. Do you have some new business? Yes. Okay, sure.
I know we've kind of talked about the staff. I just want to shout out the staff for, I love the social media content. I love the way you all are intentionally educating the public about the work that we do and the options they have, and I'm inspired by that. Everything I see that comes across my timeline, I'm always sharing it to help get it out to more people. So I want to say kudos to keeping the work in the forefront. So thank you all for the educational piece on that. Great work.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I remembered my question. Even if the recommendations by this board aren't adopted, if the recommendations aren't implemented by OPA after the fact, after we've reviewed these cases, does our system, I imagine that we're tracking and inputting this data. So if, for example, one of these officers maybe didn't get the training that we recommended, but then later have some type of issue, we would be able to go into our system and pull that officer by name and show that we had recommended additional training and whether or not that was denied or accepted?
Yes, we have that ability.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Do we have a motion to adjourn? There's a second.
Thank you for that question, though. That's a good question.
I appreciate everybody for your hard work, for coming in today. And the pay raise, I hope the mayor signed for it, and because it is well deserved. And I appreciate you working with me. Sometimes it's difficult, but I'm a fighter, and I like for the best for my people. Thank you.
I know the meeting is adjourned, but I did want to bring up one caveat in this that I didn't read, that if in fact the chief doesn't accept our recommendations, he is supposed to give us notification on why, specific information related to, it says here, so if there's acceptance, partial acceptance, or non-acceptance of the recommendations, a statement of reason for the department's decision and a description of actions taken by the department in response to the recommendations, including any factual, legal, or policy issues affecting the department's decision-making process. So, all right. Yeah. Well, thank you all. I appreciate you so much.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.